In the previous example, we learned to add the dimensions. Now let's talk about modifying the dimensions. So I'll go to Smart Dimension and I'll add the first dimension here between these two lines. All right, so here it is. I'll just click OK to accept the dimension value. Now, after adding the dimension, you can still add more dimensions. As you can see, the command is still active. This is highlighted. Smart Dimension is still active, and in the Properties Manager, we still have the dimension tools visible, which means we can use the dimension even now. So you can continue adding more dimensions like this, and all you've got to do is just select the sketches and more dimensions will be added here. Now, in order to exit this, you need to press Escape key. Now, in some situations, you may need to press Escape key more than once, because if you press Escape key once, it will just remove selection from your dimension, but still the command will be active. So you may need to press Escape key at least 2 to 3 times in order to completely exit out of this Smart Dimension. Now, so far we have used dimensions using this Smart Dimension tool, but if you expand the panel, you'll see all the other dimension tools as well. So let's see what these tools can do. So first one is horizontal dimension, and using this you can add only horizontal dimensions even when the lines are not horizontal. For example, this one. So I'll select this slant line, and now look at this. It will only add the horizontal dimension. Even when I move it here or maybe parallel to this, it's still going to add the horizontal dimension. In a similar way, if I go to vertical dimension and select the same line, it will only add the vertical dimension. So no matter where I place it. Then we have the baseline dimension. Now before I add this, I will delete some of the existing dimensions. So I'll press Escape a couple of times and I'll delete these and maybe this and this dimension too. So the baseline dimension will look like this. So I'll first click on this point and then I'll select this point right here. So the first dimension is added. Now to add the second dimension, all I need to do is click on the next point and then again next point, and there we have it. So this is baseline dimension, where all the dimensions will start from the first baseline which I selected, and it will add dimensions kind of like this. So let's select it and delete it. Now I'll go to Smart Dimension, and this time I'll select Chain Dimension. So once again, the workflow is almost similar. So I'll select the first point, then second point, and we have the first dimension. Now if I select the next points, it will just add dimensions like this in a chain. So one after another. So again, I'll press Escape and I'll select and delete the dimension. Then we have the ordinate dimension, and using ordinate dimension, you can start your dimension from origin. So here is the origin. I'll click and I'll place this first ordinate. Then with respect to that ordinate, we can add all the other coordinate values. So in this case, it is kind of like the base dimension, because all the measurement is happening from this base point. So this is 21.25 from here, 42 from here, 65 from here. So kind of like baseline, but the way it has been dimensioned is different. This ordinate dimension is also available for horizontal and vertical dimensions separately. So this one was horizontal. Now I'll select vertical ordinate dimension. And again, I'm going to start with this. So that's the first point, and then the second one, then the third one, and the fourth, and so on. So this is going to add it in vertical direction. So this option will let you add in both the direction, horizontal or vertical, depending on your selection. And that's what these things are. So as you can see, we may never use these dimensions because the Smart Dimension is just sufficient, and only using this Smart Dimension, you can add almost every single kind of these dimensions. So in this case, I'll just delete it all. And I'll go to this Smart Dimension again, and now I'll add the dimension one more time. Now let's see what else we have in dimensions. So that's the first dimension. Let's add one more here. All right, so we have 2 dimensions now. Now if you select any of these dimensions, for example, I'll select this, then in the Property Manager, you will see all the properties of that dimension. Now these properties are also divided into 3 tabs: the Value tab, Leader tab, and Other. Value tab is all about the numbers here, all the dimension related information. So For example, the name of this dimension is D1 at sketch 1. So that name is right here. So if you want to change this, so you can do that here. So just type it, so vertical, and now its name has changed. So if you go to this dimension now, it will show you the vertical dimension at sketch 1. Now the dimension here is using the precision as well as unit from the template. So it will automatically pull those values from the template, but if you want to change that, then you can change it here. For example, you can add a tolerance value if you want to add that. You can change the precision from here, maybe up to 4 decimal places, though you should not do that. You should try to keep the dimension precision consistent and try to keep it as per the template. But if you want to do that, well, there you have the option. So I'll change it back to just 2 decimal places. Now I'll go to leader, and here you can change settings, like you can change the direction of arrow. So right now this smart option is selected, which will allow SolidWorks to select the direction of arrow automatically. In this case, the arrow is inside. So if I select this, the arrow will go outside. This one is inside, and well, this is smart, so SolidWorks will pick the right direction. This is the arrow type. Right now we have the solid filled arrow here. If you want this hollow arrow, select this. Now the arrow is hollow. So I'll change it back to the solid arrow. Now if you want to change the line type here, so that's for the leader line, then uncheck this, and here you can change the line type of this dimension line. So I'll just change it to this one, and you can see the changes here. You can even make it thick if you want to. So though I don't recommend that, I'll just change it back to the defaults, and I'll click this box to use the default document related settings. So whatever the template has, it will use the same settings. The same option is with the extension line. So these are the extension line. You can change that. So uncheck and change it from here, and it will change the properties of the extension line. I'll once again check the document settings. Finally, let's go to other tab. And here you can add extra units. So right now it is using the default millimeter unit, but if you want to change it, check this box and you can use a different unit just for that dimension. For example, now it's using inches. So if you just want to do that for whatever reason, you can do it here. So I'll just change it back to millimeter. I don't want that. Also, if you want to change the font, just uncheck this and change the font from this box. So right now it is using the font as defined in the template. Now this dimension is going to drive your geometry, but if you want to do it other way around, check this driven box, and now changing the geometry will change the dimension. If you want to make this dimension only read only, check this box, and then the dimension cannot be modified and it will remain a read only dimension. I'll uncheck both of these. Finally, if you want to add dual dimensioning, which means if you want to add feet as well as inch dimension, then that option is on the value tab. So right here we have dual dimensioning. Check this box to activate dual dimensioning, and now you can see that we have values in mm, which is the main value, and then again in inches inside this square bracket. So that's the value right here. You can even control the precision of this dual dimensioning from here if you want to. So I'll uncheck this dual dimensioning. Now all of these settings are available for every single dimension, and some of these settings can also be changed directly from this dimension. So in this case, you can select your dimension and then click on these small dots to change its direction, and you can do that for this dimension as well. So there are some settings that you can change from here as well. Apart from that, you can select your dimension and associate this one with some other geometry. For example, you can just grab this point and then associate it with this point, and still it will drive the geometry. So if I now double click here and change it to, let's say, 22, it will change the geometry. So in this way, you can associate your same dimension with different points simply by moving the points on your dimension. And that's all about using dimensions in SolidWorks.